third trait of self-awareness?
The third trait is striving to improve work-appropriate manner and learning and applying guidelines or rules of the work setting.
It makes a lot of sense that one would need appropriate behavior while at work. But does this vary from workplace to workplace?
Yes, definitely. It varies from workplace to workplace and job to job. It's really important that the employee knows what the appropriate workplace manner is in their work environment. Let's take dress, for example. A construction worker would dress very differently than a lawyer, and it's necessary for their type of work. Also, a remote worker would dress differently than someone who goes into the office.
And William, do you have work experience where you learned what exactly was appropriate for the job?
Oh, yeah. In the summers, I work as a swimming instructor for an outdoor pool. And it's actually the same place that I went to when I was a kid. Actually, when I was a kid, the swimming instructors would never get in the water. And all of us would always want them to, because it's like we're getting there at like 7 in the morning and it's like really cold. So like, get in the water, like suffer with us. And they're like, no, I don't have to. I'm the instructor. So finally, when I got to the instructor age and I took my tests and I got certified and went into instruct, I also thought that I didn't need to get in the water because I was no longer like the kid. I was like, I'm in charge. I don't have to do it. And one day our boss came in as a surprise, didn't know that the management had changed, like since when I was a kid. And actually they require people to get into the pool now. Like it's a cold, hard requirement, emphasis on cold. And so actually 2 people ended up losing their jobs because they had not been in the water at all for the entire time we were teaching. I was lucky because I was in the water that day. But I also ended up needing to, for myself, come clean to them that I had also been doing the same thing that everybody else did, because that was the only day that I had been in the water. And they were, really cool about it, but they were like, yeah, you absolutely are supposed to be in the water. Parents are paying for these swimming lessons. It's, it's the requirement. So, yeah, I ended up, being in the water every day since that day.
It's interesting to hear how you became aware of what the appropriate behavior was at your job. And once you changed, how did that change your job and the environment there?
Oh, well, our bosses were super happy. They were a lot more active in our instruction from that point on, because I think partly they wanted to make sure we were doing our jobs right, but also they were very more engaged with us, and we were actually having a better time because the kids were happier to have us there, because instead of being this looming powerful figure that we had created ourselves, we were kind of just in the water, horribly cold with them, and the kids just ended up loving it a lot more than if someone was just you need to do this and I'm not going to.
William, this is a great example of you being open to working in a new way. You went into this job thinking that it wouldn't be a requirement to get into the water, but lo and behold, it was. But then you also were able to focus on the outcomes, and that it really helped to strengthen the relationship between the instructors and the kids.
Think of 2 jobs you're familiar with. They can be jobs that you've held, that family members have held, or that you've read a lot of information about. Compare and contrast what's considered appropriate in each of these jobs. Ask yourself questions like, what kind of clothing does this worker wear? What kind of hours is this worker expected to work? And who does this worker communicate with most? And how does that affect the style of communication? Afterwards, share your thoughts with the group to see how many job options are out there.